Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tumejikita Mzizi Pwani. Tutaongeza mnazi thamani.
Ukulima uko na rasilimali nyingi ambao sisi kama wapwani bado hatujatekeleza. Na tukitia bidii katika ukuzaji ule wa mimea kama minazi, ziko faida nyingi tu ambazo tuweza pata.
Kisha kilimo cha machungwa. Usikose kujumuika nami siku ya Jumamosi kuanzia saa 10:30 upate uhondo kamili wa kilimo.
Mamlaka ya ukusanyaji ushuru nchini inakuletea kampeni ya umma ya G-Nice na Risiti Legit. Thibitisha risiti yako ukitumia app ya Risiti Legit upate nafasi ya kuibuka mshindi wa zawadi kemkem kama vile shilingi milioni 1 pesa taslim, laptops, televisheni ya inchi 50, smartphones na zawadi zingine. Watu wa Ingo, Ijumaa tarehe 22 tutazuru Kakamega maeneo ya Mumias, Matungo, Shianda, Navakolo, Malaba, kambi ya Mwanza na Lurambi. Kisha Jumamosi tarehe 23 Bungoma mjini, Kimilili, Webuye, Bukomba, Kandui, Chwele, Kamukoya na Lugari. Pata app ya Risiti Legit kwa Google Play Store au App Store kwa maelezo ya kuingia katika mashindano ya Risiti Legit. G-Nice na Risiti Legit. KRA, tulipe ushuru tujitegemee.
And a very good evening to you. Thank you very much for making time on KBC Channel 1. This is Prime Edition, a day when President William Ruto has given the State of the Nation address, Adani deals cancelled, and the war on graft has been heightened. The details of all that is coming up on Prime Edition, but first, here are the highlights.
And based on new information provided by investigative agencies and partner nations, that the procuring agencies within the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum immediately cancel the ongoing procurement process for the JKIA expansion public-private partnership transaction.
It is a standing ovation in Parliament as President Ruto cancels multi-billion shilling public-private partnership deals between Kenya and Indian company Adani. The State of the Nation is resilient. Kenya's fifth president expounds on his 2-year scorecard from the floor of Parliament.
Like any major transition, there are challenges, but I promise you, we are fully committed to making the system work.
And the head of state drums support for the Social Health Authority, SHA, terming transition challenges from NHIF as manageable turbulences. My name is Betty Kiptum and Brian Muraru is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Prime Edition begins right now. President William Ruto has ordered the cancellation of a procurement process expected to hand control of the country's main airport and key electricity transmission lines to India's Adani Group following the indictment of the company's founder in the United States. Addressing the state from Parliament, the President attributed the decision to cancel the 95 billion shillings deal between Ketraco and Adani to the indictment of Gautam Adani by US prosecutors. Earlier, Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi while appearing before the Senate Energy Committee, had vowed the deal would go on despite the revelations in the United States.
Approximately 3 hours after Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi defended the 95 billion shillings public-private partnership deal between KETRACO and Adani Energy Solutions.
The PPP Directorate, which is domiciled at the National Treasury, in coordination with the KETRACO, conducted due diligence exercise on the proponent, that is Adani Energy Solutions, in 2 phases.
President William Ruto, while addressing the nation from Parliament, ordered for the cancellation of the 30-year deal.
I now direct, in furtherance of the principles enshrined in Article 10 of the Constitution on transparency and accountability, and based on new information provided by investigative agencies and partner nations, that the procuring agencies within the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum immediately cancel.
The president attributed the decision to cancel the deals with Adani Group to the indictment of Gautam Adani by US prosecutors.
Because of the information that has been provided to us by partner nations, I have directed agencies within the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum to immediately cancel the ongoing procurement process for JKI expansion public-private partnership transaction, as well as the recently concluded KETRACO transmission in public partnership.
Last month, Kenya Electricity Transmission Corporation KETRACO signed a public-private partnership deal with Adani Energy Solutions for the development, operation and maintenance of key transmissions and substations. The government has also been considering a proposal by Adani Group to lease Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for 30 years in exchange for expanding it. The announcement by the president was met by deafening applause from members of parliament, some of whom have in the past urged the government to cancel the deal. Yeshoki Washira, Prime Edition.
And President William Ruto has reiterated his commitment to deal decisively with corruption in the country, directing anti-graft agencies to up their game. He ordered Parliament to cease procrastinating over the Conflict of Interest Bill and urged the National Treasury to roll out e-procurement to curb corruption in procurement of services and goods.
Thursday afternoon in Parliament, President William Ruto made an undertaking to fight corruption, warning that it will not be business as usual.
Of the many difficult assignments I have undertaken, this fight against corruption is one I now take on with resolve going forward. Let this serve as notice to all.
He took issue with the Parliament's delay in dispensing with the Conflict of Interest Bill that seeks to provide for the management of conflict of interest in the discharge of official duties.
It is also unacceptable for the Houses of Parliament to deny the nation a much-needed instrument in the war against corruption by continuing to sabotage the passage of the Conflict of Interest Bill.
He also directed the National Treasury to automate procurement. The President also took issue with the slow prosecution of graft cases and collapsing of such cases at the behest of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
Independent institutions charged with this responsibility must up their game, pull up their socks, and match up to the expectations of the people of Kenya. Honorable members, I have stated in the past and now reiterate today that in the face of undisputed evidence or credible information on corruption, I will not hesitate to take decisive action.
Tilio Marco for Prime Edition.
President William Ruto has called on Kenyans to uphold the rule of law while exercising their democratic rights of picketing and protesting, emphasizing the need to distinguish between lawful protests and criminality. Speaking during his State of the Nation address, the president reaffirmed Kenya's commitment to democracy while cautioning against the misuse of protests to advance criminal agendas.
The fine line between lawfulness and lawlessness was one of the agenda on President William Ruto's State of the Nation address on Thursday afternoon at Parliament buildings.
We have a democracy which we are proud of, must defend, and should deepen by all means. And at the same time, we have citizens whose lives, rights we must protect, and a nation whose security, stability, and prosperity we must safeguard. The task at hand is complicated if citizens and state agencies dilute the distinction between the lawful and the criminal.
Highlighting the importance of democracy as a cornerstone of nationhood, President Ruto stated that peaceful and armed protests are a constitutional right meant to promote accountability and defend the rule of law.
Assemblies, demonstrations, and picketing to advance constitutionalism, increase accountability, and defend the rule of law are constitutional imperatives.
He, however, expressed concerns over rising incidences of violence and lawlessness during demonstrations.
Criminals and subversive elements who infiltrate and hijack peaceful protests are a threat both to legitimate protesters and to the public.
While acknowledging that some reported cases of disappearances were resolved or found to be false, he emphasized that any extrajudicial actions by law enforcement agencies are unacceptable and a threat to democracy.
I must, however, make it very clear that there is no attempt to justify or excuse illegal arrests. I condemn any excessive or extrajudicial action which puts the life and liberty of any person at risk, including disappearances and threats to life.
The president called on both citizens and state agencies to uphold the rule of law, making clear distinctions between lawful protest and criminal acts. He emphasized that democracy, public safety, and national stability can only be achieved if all parties act responsibly. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
And on that note, we take our first short break here. When we come back, we shall be telling you what the president said on matters healthcare and education. Do stay.
We asked the children, how many of you brushed this morning? And this little boy, his hand didn't go up. And I said, well, why didn't you brush this morning? He said, my brother was using the toothbrush. If I'd waited for him, I would have been late for school. I'm sorry, I get a bit emotional when it comes to that. To be able to change a child's life, to be able to bring back that confidence about their smile, for me, is phenomenal.
Christmas ni sahi ishafika na ni kubwa kubwa. Kweli? Hii Christine ni bomba na Blue Santa kupitia star 570 hash option 1. Rudia. Star 570 hash option 1. Iko PlayStation 5 na 55 inch TV na iko 500,000 Kenyan shillings. Nambuzi moja? Nambuzi. 1 million Kenyan shillings na Samsung S24 Alpha. Nabuzi moja? Iko 2 million Kenyan shillings na iPhone 16 Pro Max. Nabuzi mbili? Blue Santa amekuja na zawadi kibao. Nani kubwa kubwa? Hapa kuna ndogo ndogo. Hapa Christmas ni bomba.
Welcome back. You are watching Prime Edition, and thank you very much for staying with us. Now we move on to other news. President William Ruto has acknowledged that the social health insurance is sailing in turbulence, but promises to stabilize it, urging Kenyans to register for it. The president termed the shift from NHIF to Taifa Care is fundamental and radical in both scale and character, and it will ensure every Kenyan accesses quality and affordable health care. Ruto spoke Thursday when he delivered his third State of the Nation address at a joint sitting of Parliament, said the new system is fully automated, removing any human interference to seal corruption loopholes.
While making his third State of the Nation address at a joint sitting of Parliament, President William Ruto acknowledged that it has not been a smooth sail for the Social Health Insurance Fund, saying it has been facing some headwinds. The President said the trajectory of the Taifa Care was to move away from the defunct NHIF, which was only a reserve of salaried and abled Kenyans.
Like any major transition, there are challenges, but I promise you, we are fully committed to making the system work. We are listening to citizen voices and collaborating with counties to deliver better healthcare services.
The President said he had an option of sitting back and have counties manage healthcare, which is a devolved function, but that would have been a disservice to Kenyans who deserve healthcare as a constitutional right. So far, the head of state said over 15 million Kenyans and more than 60% of employers have successfully transitioned into the new healthcare framework.
Over the past month, we have disbursed Kenya shillings 5 billion to settle historical debts owed to the public, private, and faith-based medical facilities, some of which have been pending for over a decade. Another 3.7 billion will be disbursed tomorrow.
The new system, the President said, takes effect on registration, unlike NHIF, which had a 6-month waiting period to enjoy any of its services.
As a result, the good news, SHA will pay all October claims in full by next week. And it will continue like that going into the future.
President Ruto pleading with Kenyans to register with the new medical scheme, which will soon bear fruits.
Register. Register now, or at the earliest possible opportunity.
Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
And on matters education, President William Ruto has outlined sweeping reforms aimed at transforming the sector. Speaking during the third State of the Nation address, the President reaffirmed his government's commitment to creating accessible, affordable and quality education for all Kenyans.
Speaking before a joint session of Parliament, President Ruto described education as a cornerstone of his administration's transformative agenda. From teacher recruitment to higher education funding, the President detailed measures aimed at tackling systematic challenges and improving learning outcomes across the country.
By 2022, the education sector was in a crisis, with a lack of clarity in transition to the competence-based curriculum, a shortage of 110,000 teachers, and 23 out of 40 public universities were technically bankrupt and at risk of closure.
Among the highlights, the President announced the recruitment of 56,000 teachers in the last 2 years, set to join by January next year. The competency-based curriculum also featured prominently in the President's address. President Ruto said the transition to domicile grade 7, 8 and 9 in primary school is designed to optimize existing infrastructure while reducing cost for parents.
To address this issue in our education sector, we have already hired, as you know, members, 56,000 teachers and are in the process of recruiting another 20,000 by January next year. We have also ensured the seamless transition of learners from primary to junior secondary and domiciled grade 7, 8 and 9 in primary school, optimizing the use of existing infrastructure, ensuring the safety of young learners, and protecting parents from the high costs associated with boarding schools far away.
The President also addressed financial instability in public universities, noting that 23 institutions were technically bankrupt in 2022.
Among those facing severe challenges were huge institutions such as my own alma mater, University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, Moi University, Egerton University, Maseno University, Masinde Muliro University. The remaining challenges for a few universities, like Moi University, are related to internal administrative and governance issues, which I have given firm instructions that they should be addressed.
According to the president, the Kenya Kwanza administration has introduced a student-centered funding model prioritizing vulnerable students with up to 95% government support. In addition, President Ruto highlighted the launch of the Open University of Kenya. The institution will offer flexible learning opportunities for Kenyans, with its first cohort set to graduate on November 29th. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Wewe bro, nipatie hiyo risiti ya items. Wazi wazi.
Cheki, mimi sina do hizo nafuka.
Excuse, niletee risiti yangu ya items. Asante. Nice. Ani pesa ngapi? 3,000. Hebu nisaidie na ile risiti ya items.
Nimeshinda mili. I'm the latest millionaire. Marry me, baby.
Yes! Guys, nimeshinda laptop. Nimeshinda TV 50 inches.
Nice na Risiti Legit promotion kutoka KRA. Download Risiti Legit app, scan QR code kwenye risiti yako, ujishindie zawadi kem kila wiki. Kuna grand prize ya milioni 3 kwa washindi 3 milioni kila mmoja.
All right, listen up. Quality is on a mission. It makes our gums happy and our teeth strong. See? We're moving forward and making changes.
It's kind of a big thing.
Colgate Herbal uses traditional nature's herbs and combines it with Colgate science for healthy gums and strong teeth. And we'll leave no smile behind.
Nimeona ziko kila mahali.
Hizi basi zinaanza juu kwenye shingo, kifuani.
Niko na shida sana. Mwili wangu wote umejaa tezi wote. Mwili wote umefutuka kabisa kila mahali. Hata ni vile tu kuonekana wakati mwingi mara nimejiziba nguo. Kienda mahali kokote watu wananikimbia. Kienda mazishini watu wanasema hata wewe bado wewe ukufe, wewe na wewe ukufe. Mimi nisaidieni mimi sina uwezo.
Welcome back. You are watching Prime Edition. Now, we'd like to make sense of the State of the Nation address by President William Ruto this afternoon in Parliament. And to just give a voice to this State of the Nation address and thoughts is Gilbert Kiprono, who is an economist, as well as Philip Pande, who is a youth inclusion advisor. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Karibuni sana. Let's start off with, of course, the big news about the cancellation of the Adani deal. Remember that we had news that he was indicted in that New York case, and now the deal is gone from Kenya for both KETRACO and JKIA expansion. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, especially on what this has done for the image of the presidency in terms of listening to Kenyans. I'll start with you, Gilbert.
Thank you so very much. I want to say that the president's address to actually cancel what the deal which had already been put for Adani it has come in timely. Kenyans have been waiting to see whether we are really committed to fighting and also committed to integrity and also ensuring that what is done and what government speaks, also they do it. What has happened is that we, and actually Kenyans outside there, have been hearing and they have seen, and there are many deals that this Adani actually has entered into outside. overseas. And we've seen and we've heard that and of read in the news that they have been questionable. The integrity of Adani is questionable. However much we are trying to sanctify and talk about Adani being a good person to be able to enter into deals and even support this country, I think Kenyans were waiting for the president, his actually remarks, and also his comments as to whether we'll proceed to pursue the other route where we are talking about we want to fight corruption, we want to adhere into integrity that we need to do as a country, but also veer away from it. But I think this one is welcomed by Kenyans, and I think even personally I'm very enthused and happy that at least the president has been able to listen to Kenyans. I think that is what I would say.
Right, thank you. Philip, your thoughts on that?
Very well, many thanks, Betty, for having me this night. I want to say that the president in his opening remarks and his speech entirety today was first an admittance and an acknowledgement that listening is paramount. And indeed in his fourth statement he says that he acknowledges that listening is a full-time occupation in leadership. And I think with that in mind, then the president is bound to make, I think, proper judgment and proper decisions owing to the fact that he listens and commits to act on things that are stated or brought up by Wananchi. In that very speech, the president acknowledges that Kenyans are somewhat ahead of government in many things, and so government has to catch up with the nation, the citizenry, in what we do. And I dare say, Betty, that the population in Kenya is far much informed. People have access to internet and access to, various pieces of information across the globe. Before many of us knew about Adani, many Kenyans that have a capacity to access the internet and, have information at their fingertips were already sharing. And, Adani deal was made public by the citizens, not the state. So we have to get that difference. I'm glad that the president got to the Damascus moment where he has to really face the reality, not just what Kenyans are saying, but what the global landscape is saying regarding the investments by the Adani Group and their conduct, not just in Kenya, but in America, in Asia, and elsewhere across the globe. It is fundamental that the decision of the president today is not just informed by the cries and the weeping by Kenyans, but also the fact that today Adani has been charged in the US. Adani has not just been charged in the US, but it has been charged in many other jurisdictions across the globe. So how nations relate, we bore a lot on bilateral relations. Today, if we know that there's a change of administration in the US. You don't know what President Trump, for example, is thinking about Adani. Right. But now for the fact that he's involved in a multi-billion stock exchange, bribery allegation, it was only prudent that a nation like Kenya that trades with the US, that has been elevated to the position of, a member of the NATO group in terms of the political alignments, then you have to really toe the line. And I think that's what the president has done.
Definitely. Now, even in ensuring that transparency and accountability is met in the country, he talked about a number of measures when it comes to corruption. One of them was the e-procurement system that he directed actually National Treasury to ensure that it's implemented by the end of Q1 2025. Something he said has been delayed for the past 10 years. And I would like to hear from you how important this is in curbing corruption, and considering that there are very many systems that have been implemented before when it comes to procurement and payment as well, but people have somehow found a way to surmount these systems. What are your thoughts in e-procurement system and ensuring that corruption is curbed? I'll start with you, Gilbert.
Thank you very much. I think where the nerves and where the corruption actually starts is where we start from the procurement stage. Where we've had a lot of cases, a lot of scandals, including even the KEMSA scandal, actually speaks to the procurement, the loopholes within the procurement systems. I would say that in and before, and the commitment that actually had been shown even by the other governments before, is that to ensure that they try to mitigate corruption. And I would say that I think we have failed for quite a while. We have failed for so many years. Addressing this issue of procurement is very important because, one, if it had actually been addressed before, if these procurement systems are in place, I would say that it will reduce the touch where you can say that you want to bid for something, you would have to call somebody, you will have to use the people you know within the company, and I think this system actually will address that. I want to believe that the system had been made not to work, and actually the implementation of the system had been made not to work. But if the government of the day decides and sanctions and ensures that this system works, I'll tell you it will work. And if the president is to go by his words, I think he will make it work. And if it works, then it will actually mitigate the corruption scandals that we've seen and we've had across the country, and which actually kills the spirit. You know, we Kenyans are paying taxes. We want to feel the value of the taxes we pay. We are in the dispensation where every other day there are policy directives to be able to expand the tax base in this country. The question that people keep asking themselves is that after paying this tax, then where will it end? Is our money safe? But if we pay our taxes and see the services outside there, if we pay our taxes and see and also see the commitment with the political class to mitigate and even to reduce corruption and make the institutions that are charged with that mandate of actually of dealing with graft. And I think the president has mentioned that the institutions that are independent should be able to do their work, should be able to ensure that this works. I think the National Treasury and the CS has no option but to make sure that it passes, it makes sure that this e-procurement actually comes to a closure and is implemented across. And this will be able to enable the systems, the robust systems that are there within the government. And I want to laud what happens in terms of the digitization. We can't be talking about digitizing everything, but when it comes to this simple matter of procurement, we still want to wait. We still want to do the manual things. I think gone are the days when we have to go manual. We are talking about the digital age, and I think my brother has spoken to this, that this is an era where somebody can be able to even take a copy and scan and send out that, you know, so-and-so was able to bid, people influence. And I think it's high time that we started thinking, even as leadership in this country, of walking the talk. If we walk the talk, then I would say that we will be safe as a country.
Thank you. One of the institutions that is very important in the fight against corruption is the judiciary. Let's just get a story on the judiciary's take on the Adani case, and a section of Kenya's illegal minds are tonight reacting to the cancellation of the government's development deal with the controversial Adani Group. While some have welcomed the move, others are questioning the timing of the move. A series of petitions have been filed in court seeking the cancellation of the deals, which petitioners said were unconstitutional.
What we want from the government side is an unconditional expression that they are not going to carry on with the contracts, the multi-performing contracts at JKIA, at Ketraco, and Kengen, and the implementation of SHA.
There is a failure on the part of Parliament, because Parliament ought to oversight the executive. And in this particular case, Parliament has remained mum for over a year as Kenyans lament over the Adani deal. My conclusion, and the conclusion of a majority of Kenyans and lawyers in particular, is that Parliament has become cheap. It has become emasculated. It has been purchased by the executive. Because why didn't they see that before now? Just like the failing on the part of Parliament when they passed the Finance Bill 2024, this is another failure. It should not.
Now, Philip, you have listened to that story, and the question that I had asked Gilbert earlier about the e-procurement system. I'd like to get your take on this as well.
Very well. The case of Adani is quite different because it's a case of more of a public-private partnership which did not involve our usual procurement processes. The government has a very elaborate system of procurement, sometimes direct, sometimes restricted, sometimes you go the PPP way, which then again has some legal backing. But for Kenya as a nation, I would say that we've made some tremendous steps in ring-fencing public funds and accounting for public funds. One, after the inauguration of the 2010 Constitution, the Public Finance Management Act, the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, and many other legislations have made it possible for public procurement to open up to more citizenry and more people to access. The adoption of IFMIS, for example, is one aspect of digitization and making sure that the government vote book entirety is on some e-platform that can be accessed by the accounting authorities and procurement personnel. And counties have followed suit, because today, as a county government, you do not access your funds unless you don't expend outside the IFMIS system. So if we've been able to digitize or have our vote books as national and sub-national governments, why then are we not making our procurement needs digital? Many counties, you will follow, Betty, have tried to digitalize their procurement. E-procurement has functioned to the extent that county governments want it to function. If today the president makes that declaration, and of course we saw the intention from his speech that by end of Q1 of 2025, then this would be in effect, it is going to solve many problems. One, it is going to make the work of the procurement, the dispute resolution on procurement very easy, because then we are not going to work backwards. The way procurement works in this country, Betty, is that you first identify the vendor, then work the process backwards to see how the vendor then fits within the process of award. The e-procurement would ensure that we don't work backwards, we work forward, first identifying, ensuring that everybody, for example, where you need pre-qualification, pre-qualifies, you are shortlisted, you go through the process to the level of award and execution of the contract. It would also solve the aspect of the 30% meant for the special groups, including the youth, women, and persons with disability. Today, if you ask government, Betty, on how much of the procurement has been allotted to the youth, to the women, to the persons with disability, we can't account, and I would tell you that it's less than 10%. So with e-procurement, where government comes out today, from the national government to the sub-national, to say that 30% of tenders of government business has been allocated to the special interest group, then we need to see it on the portal, and we need to see the youth, the women, and the persons with disability that have accessed that. So it's going to be more of open governance, improving accountability, and ensuring that what is meant for a particular cohort of the population then is received by them. Again, the last thing that we would solve is value for money, because then in a competitive process, because our procurement today is not competitive as it is. If you are working backwards, then you don't see the level of accountability and value for money for that. So when we work forward and we have a more transparent space where you get the best, then you're also going to get the value for money. And so accountability and transparency is going to be on another level. And I think it's something that would work not just for the good of this administration, but for posterity of the Kenyan nation, so that even as we pay debt, even as we talk about the SGR, which was, one of the ridiculous expenditures in this country, now you can justify that besides the Chinese companies that developed this project, then there were many other bidders that were fitting the bill that then would have achieved way better what we have today at a lower cost. And I think if we achieve this, then this would be one of the biggest things this administration will be going home with.
Right. Final question on matters accountability, the conflict of interest bill. If you watched that address, at that point there was thunderous laughter in Parliament when the President mentioned that. Do you think there is political will, especially from parliamentarians, to fast-track the implementation of this particular bill? Let's start with you, Philip, on that one.
Thank you, Betty. President received 2 standing ovations. One talking about the cancellation of the Adani deal and a repeat of the same. But there was also a moment of, the laughter, as you say, where members of parliament received their own share of lashing, as I would say, because the conflict of interest bill is not just new in this regime. It started in the last administration, and it has never seen the light of the day. The president was candid today, one, acknowledging the journey that we've walked since 2022, the troubles that the economy has had in terms of the cost of living, issues to do with the health, which is still a thorn on the flesh, issues to do with the education sector, both CBC and the university funding. One key issue that the government must deal with and Parliament must deal with on its part is the conflict of interest bill. Last week, I think we all saw the opposition leader, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, saying that members of Parliament are developing roads and inviting the president to commission or launch those roads. Why would an MP be involved in procuring and implementing a project for that matter, and then that same project is launched by the presidency? It is a huge conflict of interest, and the National Assembly and Senate were both conflicted on the issue of failure to pass this bill. Let's see how they react in the coming days so that members of Parliament, for example, play their oversight and legislative role and leave business and procurement and other services to private citizens that can execute and deliver value for money for the citizens.
Thank you, Philip. I'll give you, Gilbert, a chance to answer that question when I come back to you in a little bit. Let's just continue with our story on matters economy, where government's efforts to reduce expenditure and mobilize domestic revenue are bearing fruit, with macroeconomic indicators pointing to an economic turnaround. President William Ruto, while addressing the nation from Parliament, said the initiatives that have been painful and sacrificial for Kenyans, as well as the stabilizing of the shilling, which had a remarkable gain of 20% against the dollar, restored investor confidence in the country's financial markets, hence the economic turnaround.
Following President William Ruto's stance to reduce expenditure, mobilize domestic resources and curtail waste, the head of state noted that the initiatives the government had put in place saw inflation ease from 9.6% to 2.7%, the lowest rate in 17 years.
This recovery has restored confidence in our financial markets and significantly reduced the cost of servicing external debt, creating fiscal space for our development imperatives.
The head of state further pointed out that Kenya's foreign exchange reserves surged by $2.4 billion, covering up to 4.8 months of import cover. This, coupled with the taxman's efforts to broaden the tax base, have also freed up fiscal space for growth-enhancing initiatives.
This resilience shields us from external shocks in the global economy and restores investor confidence.
Ruto also indicated that Kenya's economic growth remains robust, ranking among the highest globally, with 5.6% growth in 2023 and projections of 5% growth this year and 5.6% next year.
The economy continues to grow steadily, recording a 5.6% growth rate in 2023, among the highest globally.
Nduta Mokami for Prime Edition.
Have a complaint, or is something just not adding up with your pension scheme? It's easy to file a complaint directly with the Retirement Benefits Authority, and it's absolutely free. Just visit www.complaints.rba.go.ke and follow the prompts to file your complaint. RBA will acknowledge your complaint within 7 working days. Your complaint will be reviewed and addressed within 30 working days. Your time and peace of mind are important, and anyone dissatisfied with a decision of RBA can appeal to the Independent Retirement Benefits Appeals Tribunal. RBA is here to listen and resolve your complaint promptly, because your retirement should be stress-free. For more information, visit our website www.rba.go.ke, call our toll-free line 0800-720-300 or email info@rba.go.ke. Secure your future. Secure your peace of mind. RBA, safeguarding your retirement benefits.
Mamlaka ya ukusanyaji ushuru nchini inakuletea kampeni ya umma ya G-Nice na Risiti Legit. Thibitisha risiti yako ukitumia app ya Risiti Legit, upate nafasi ya kuibuka mshindi wa zawadi kemkem kama vile shilingi milioni 1 pesa taslim, laptops, televisheni ya inchi 50, smartphones na zawadi zingine. Watu wa Ingo, Ijumaa tarehe 22 tutazuru Kakamega, maeneo ya Mumias, Matongo, Shianda, Navakolo, Malaba, kambi ya Mwanza na Lurambi. Kisha Jumamosi tarehe 23 Bungoma mjini, Kimilili, Webuye, Bukomba, Kandui, Chwele, Kamukoya na Lugari. Pata app ya Risiti Legit kwa Google Play Store au App Store kwa maelezo ya kuingia katika mashindano ya Risiti Legit. G-Nice na Risiti Legit. KRA, tulipe ushuru tujitegemee.
Je, ungependa kuwa mshindi na Lucky Box? Ni rahisi sana.
Bonyeza *463# uwe mshindi.
Yo siku ya ndovu kumla mwanawe. Sote tuwagane, sote tukaribishane.
Shukran. Yamkini ni sisi. Nairobi.
Ati dance ya kudonjo ni dance ya majuu. Dance ikishika unazungusha mguu.
Wazazi wamechangia pakubwa katika kumomonyoka kwa maadili ya watoto wao.
Wazazi wanakosa kuwa mfano mwema kwa watoto wao. Hii inatokea pale ambapo wanakuwa na migogoro na kugombana mbele ya watoto wao.
Kila mtu anaweza kuwa mshindi. Bonyeza *463# uwe mshindi.
Kuchagua box ni kuchagua chapa.
Kumbuka, kila unapocheza Lucky Box unasaidia watoto kusoma.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime Edition. Now, the government has completed 4,888 housing units in the Affordable Housing Program as at November 2024, since its launch over a year ago. Speaking while giving the State of the Nation address, President William Ruto said the complete units are now up for sale across 24 counties. Alan Aoko tells us more.
The Affordable Housing Program seeks to build 250,000 housing units every year and is geared towards facilitating the production of decent, safe and affordable housing for citizens of Kenya. And now the government is ready to offload units to Kenyans.
After 2 years of hard work under the Affordable Housing Program, I am proud to announce, and you have seen it in the newspapers, the launch of the sale of the first 4,888 housing units, now in completion, across 21 social housing projects.
The affordable housing units are designed for people with a monthly income of between 20,000 and 140,000 shillings, while the affordable middle-class housing units are for people earning over 149,000 shillings per month.
Supplying the number of units required to fill the affordable housing gap requires us to undertake construction throughout the country at the rate of 200,000 new housing units every year for 10 years.
On land, the president noted that the rural urbanization is also threatening farms meant for agricultural development, a significant earner for the country, hence the need to consolidate developments through the affordable housing program.
To protect agriculture and food security from the effects of uncontrolled land fragmentation, urbanization must be planned and must be controlled. And the Affordable Housing Program is therefore a vital component of integrated land use planning and development program that we are implementing throughout the country and in every county.
The housing units options up for sale are 2-bedroom units of 40 and 64 square meters going for 2 and 3.2 million shillings respectively, with an alternative monthly repayment rate of 14,450 and 23,128 shillings. The 3-bedroom units have a 60 square meter space going at 3 million shillings, or an alternative of 21,680 shillings monthly repayment rate. Studio Cam shop units on a 64 square meter space are going for 3.2 million shillings with a monthly repayment rate of 23,128 shillings. The affordable middle class housing units are selling for between 2.4 million shillings to 4.2 million shillings. At the core of the affordable housing program is to eradicate the prevalence of informal urban settlements such as Kibera, Shauri Moyo and Mukuru kwa Ruben. Alanoko, Prime Edition.
Now, Kenyans are beginning to feel the sweetness of the reforms in the agriculture industry, with local sugar production surpassing demand in the month of July. President Dr. William Ruto, while addressing the nation in Parliament, said the reforms implemented in the sugar sector have seen a surge in production, with 4 new sugar factories under construction to boost output.
Early this month, President Dr. William Ruto signed into law the Sugar Amendment Bill of 2022, which saw the re-establishment of the Kenya Sugar Board, the creation of the Kenya Sugar Research and Training Institute, and the implementation of the Sugar Development Levy. The measures, according to the President, will strengthen the industry by boosting production, enhancing milling efficiency, aligning capacity with cane supply, promoting value addition, and providing critical funding to benefit all stakeholders. While addressing the nation in Parliament Thursday afternoon, President Ruto said 4 new sugar factories are under construction to help Kenya produce enough sugar and minimize importations.
4 new sugar factories are under construction. In July alone, domestic sugar production reached 84,000 metric tons, surpassing the national monthly consumption average of 40,000 metric tons. For the first time in recent history, Kenya is producing enough sugar to meet our local demand.
Of the commodity, with 17 sugar factories are now operational, the President said that the operationalization of all 17 sugar factories in the country, coupled with the fertilizer subsidy program, has led to surplus sugar production.
We have procured and through e-vouchers distributed 7 million bags of both planting and top dressing fertilizer to boost food production across the country. This intervention will see a projected increase in maize production, for example, to a record 74 million 90 kilogram bags.
Meanwhile, President Ruto noted that Kenya currently boasts of substantial national stocks of 47 million bags of 90 kilograms of maize, which are currently in the stores, and 8.8 million 90 kilograms bags of beans.
Slowly but surely, we are building a food-secure Kenya, where families need not to worry or worry less about their next meal.
Frederick Muki for Prime Edition.
Now, the government has underscored its commitment to ensure access to credit for micro, small and medium enterprises and individuals through financial inclusion initiatives such as the Hustler Fund. Speaking while addressing the nation in Parliament, President William Ruto said the initiative has so far disbursed 60 billion shillings, benefiting 24 million Kenyans.
Hustler Fund program, which was launched in November 2022, seeking to unlock the potential of the informal business sector in the country through provision of loans, has so far disbursed 60 billion shillings, benefiting 24.6 million Kenyans, and mobilized over 3.3 billion shillings in savings. The fund has, however, maintained a repeat customer base of 8.5 million beneficiaries with a repayment rate of 79%.
We have also prioritized the empowerment of individuals within the informal sector by unlocking their potential through targeted investment. These include accessible loans, capacity building programs, and regulatory reforms designed to ease growth.
To mark the fund's secondary anniversary, a third product was launched targeting 2 million beneficiaries in the small and medium enterprises sector who demonstrated a strong credit history with the fund, creating a pathway for entrepreneurs to transition into the formal banking system, thereby strengthening the SME sector.
We have taken a bold step by launching a third product specifically tailored for small and medium enterprises. This new initiative will initially target 2 million beneficiaries who have demonstrated a strong credit history with the fund. By so doing, we aim to create a pathway for these entrepreneurs to transition into the formal banking system, thereby deepening financial inclusion and strengthening the SME sector.
The president attributes the success of the program to early interventions in his bottom-up economic transformation agenda plan, adding that plans are underway to capitalize on the gains secured and invest resources in the economy.
As we proceed with implementation, we expect to quickly capitalize on the gains we have secured and invest resources in the economy with the emphasis on strategic pillars of our plan.
Winslaus Pamba for Prime Edition.
Members of Parliament have hailed President William Ruto's State of the Nation address, saying the speech showed that the president listened to Kenyans, while appreciating the president for fully committing to address the challenges facing some sectors, such as health and education. The MPs termed the president's directive to cancel Adani company deal as courageous and sharp.
I must thank him for one very important thing: the fight against corruption. That is the bottom line of everything that he said today, and inviting all government agencies, those fighting corruption, those involved in the judicial system or the justice system, the National Assembly and the Senate in legislation, and the rest of the government agencies in bids to fight corruption. That was the take home for me, and I must appreciate it, and I want to call upon the rest of those institutions to join hands with the president in fighting corruption.
We feel that those who are responsible for the entire process leading to the award of the tender to Adani must take responsibility. There must be accountability in whatever happened. Because one, a deal, such a huge contract, cannot just be cancelled without consequences. There will be consequences for the termination of that contract. We must pay some money, because it will not just be cancelled in a casual manner, the way the president said. There will be consequences.
You know, universal healthcare has been a thorn in the issue from the Kibaki era, from the Uhuru era, and now William Ruto as president. And he has assured Kenyans that the SHA and SHIP will definitely work, which I believe is a good thing for Kenya.
Where the president is saying, look at the dollar. Look at food self-sufficiency, subsidized fertilizers, that Kenya is on the road to recovery. And I think it's good, and we'll debate in the House. There are other things which we must say that the president should do more in this or that area.
I think what Kenyans need to know and to understand is that we are growing economically. We are growing at 5.6%. Our inflation rate is 2.7%. And for any thoughts, and the only issue now is unemployment, which I'm sure will be tackled. But every single economic indicator shows that we are growing as a country. And that's what we want. Because without a great...
Those are comments by parliamentarians after the State of the Nation address. And in studio with me is Gilbert Kiprono, who is an economist, as well as Philip Pande, who is a youth inclusion advisor, just breaking down what the State of the Nation address means. And Gilbert, you've listened to the parliamentarians speaking. Do you read any political will there to implement the conflicts of interest bill?
I think the conflict of interest bill is an elephant in the room. The politicians I think they are not really willing. That you saw the way they reacted and all that. And the issues of conflict of interest, if I may just want to mention how important it is when you talk about, if you talk about the corporate sector, we are saying that if, for example, you are part of a company and you are a board member, if you talk about the corporate, you're supposed to be able to declare the conflict in any matter that you are conflicted, especially when you're having a meeting or when you're having a transaction that touches the company that you lead in the corporate world. So what it means is that where you are conflicted, there are three things that you need to do. One is that you should be able to declare, and that means when you declare, you can be able to recuse yourself from the discussions or the decisions that are going to be made that you ought to be there. Another key item that happens is that when you are conflicted in the matter as a person in the corporate world, we say that you actually, as a person, should be able to own it and declare. And when you say we declare, is that in the corporate world we say you record now, you must be able to record. In what space? When you talk about politicians, in what space are they going to, what platform are they going to, for example, address those issues of conflict if they are not going to look at that conflict of interest bill? I think when we are conflicted and because for some reason politicians have their way, they would want to still cook the cake and eat it. And I think what my brother mentioned is that you want to oversee a project from tendering everything, and then you go take part in it, call the president to launch it. These issues that you've had, and including even what happened in the recent, of course, the discussions and the impeachment that happened recently, of course, it's now almost being forgotten, is that issues that part of the things that were raised as part of the grounds of impeachment was that the former deputy president actually and his companies were able to bid and people to take part in government tenders. And I think such allegations, as it were able to, and you saw what happened. Of course, it's now, of course, water under the bridge. But what we are saying is this: politicians, I think, the way they reacted, I don't know whether they are really happy and they will be able to let it pass as it is. But I think if we are to address this issue of conflict of interest, we must put it to the table, legislate, so that we know at what point are you going to take part, for example, in these projects. Some of these things we see and we've heard is that people use proxies. And the current and the state, of course, under the business registry, this issue of business beneficial ownership, declaring who is the owner of the company and all this, is always trying to, as much as possible, reduce these issues of conflict, where you take part in a transaction which you yourself are conflicted. So I think, as it is, I don't know whether the politicians are up to the game, are going to pass this bill.
Let us hope that
we wait and see.
Right.
We wait and see.
It's a wait and see situation. Gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our conversation. I'd give you 30 seconds each to give us your closing remarks. Kindly start with you, Philip.
Very well, Betty. Thank you again for having us. I would close by saying that the president today, and I hope in the future, has come to the moment of truth. And the moment of truth is that leadership requires listening, leadership requires learning. And in his own words, he says that he's taken that into account. His State of the Nation address today depicts and mirrors a person that has been listening to the citizenry, that has been listening to the truth, and that is faced with the reality on the ground. We hope that it takes time to listen more about the SHIF and the SHA, on the health sector. We hope that it takes more time to listen to the youth on education and employment. We hope it takes more time to listen to details on the cost of living and how we can make it possible for Kenyans to get money into their pockets. If those questions are answered, I think we are making strategic steps as a nation towards building a country that is more inclusive, that takes care of its citizens, and that listens to the needs of the citizens.
Thank you very much, Philip. Gilbert, 30 seconds, please.
Mine is to just say that the comments and of course the address by the president tries as much as possible to mirror the needs of Kenyans and the cry of Kenyans. But what is key and what it's very, very important to take note of is we must be able to see now action Let's walk away from the rhetoric. Let's walk away from the talks. We want to see things being done. I think the challenge that we've been having all along with politicians is just promising, and failing to deliver. I would be very happy if the directives that have been given, and so far as, for example, the issues of e-procurement, the issues that have been mentioned by the President in terms of financial inclusion, issues of interest rates and all those. And very, very most important thing that I would want to mention is I want to have a feel of this economic growth that we keep mentioning. I want to feel it in my pocket. And I think that is what Kenyans are asking. And what I pay as tax is used prudently and accounted for in a manner that would reflect an accountable government, and also that would reflect a government that listens. And I think that is what we've seen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. That is Gilbert Kiprono, who is an economist, as well as Philip Pande, who is a youth inclusion advisor, just helping us make sense of what was said in that State of the Nation address. Prime Edition takes a quick break. When we come back, we break down the business news. Do stay with us.
Star 570 hash. Option 1 kuna PS5 na ni full package na inakuja na JBL Party Box. Hiyo boom experience pia iko.
Ama si hivyo, atoe watu wale waliumiza watoto wetu.
Wacha ingie ndani, aende alipie makosa yake. Jemedari will do the job for me. I will take the credit.
Are you sure Jemedari will handle this?
Ndajuaje utatumia hii maneno kunisaliti? Hizi vyombo mimi ndo nimenunua.
Wala Biblia haifurahii mambo na uchawi.
Okay.
Ale.
I need some water.
Ale. Una sweat. Unapiga nduru.
Sio tu ni ndoto ya kawaida.
Unautemea na Alex.
Babe, please. Wewe pia uamke, wacha kunipa stress.
Kama uongei mimi ndakuacha hapo udinai mess peke yako.
I can't believe I called you.
And I cannot believe you called me either.
Thank you for staying with Prime Edition. Time for business news now. A forensic audit conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers has revealed massive financial impropriety at the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives, KUSCO, with losses exceeding 12 billion shillings. Speaking when he received the audit report, Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya says the findings point to widespread and misappropriation of funds orchestrated by former senior board officials who were dismissed in May 2024. Trevor Ngendo has the details.
For over a year, the umbrella organization for SACCOs, the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives, has been under scrutiny for its involvement in illegal deposit-taking activities. Preliminary investigations conducted in October 2023 revealed multiple instances of resource mismanagement and financial record manipulation, leading to the removal of the previous board in May this year. Further investigations by Grant Thornton audit firm uncovered irregular withdrawals of nearly 6 billion shillings from KUSCO's accounts over the past 11 years, with the funds seemingly diverted into individuals' pockets.
All monies, all payments done irregularly must be recovered.
We cannot allow KUSCO to go down. We'll use all our networks and make sure that we support KUSCO.
On Thursday, KUSCO's interim board, led by Chairman David Mategwa, handed over a forensic audit report conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers to the Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives.
Instead of it carrying out its mandate, it decided to divert
and go to areas that it had no mandate. There was no oversight over that particular institution because of the gaps within our own laws.
According to the audit, Cusco has seen pilferage of 12.5 billion shillings.
Cusco is insolvent, according to the report what they found out through their investigation, and that we have a deficit of about 12 billion Kenya shillings.
The Cabinet Secretary stated that the report will pave way for investigations by the relevant authorities and the subsequent prosecution of all those found culpable. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Experts are calling for more investment in sustainable farming methods, including rainwater harvesting, solar-powered irrigation, as well as training of communities on conservatory practices to boost food security. Economic Planning Secretary Timothy Gakuo says adoption of smart agriculture technologies is key to countering effects of drought and floods as a result of erratic weather conditions brought about by climate change.
According to the latest survey by Kenya Institute for Public Policy Research and Analysis, there is an increasing demand for evidence-based policy, planning, decision-making and monitoring, as well as evaluation at both the national and county levels to counter effects of climate change.
As a government, we must be purposeful and deliberate to ensure the data we generate must be put into use.
Because the uptake so far is not good, because we need to do some more dissemination so that more and more data users can use our data.
As such, experts are calling for increased investments in sustainable water management, drought-resistant crops and alternative livelihoods, development programs to ease over-reliance on traditional farming methods that are susceptible to environmental changes.
Collectively build resilient, sustainable food and nutrition systems, including efforts to increase agricultural productivity through development and applications of appropriate technologies such as smart agricultural practices, strengthen extension services, expanding access to agricultural credit and supporting the establishment of crop and livestock insurance, enhancing data collections and analysis and disseminations of the drought early warning systems.
Gakuo opines that utilizing data to guide policy and programmatic interventions such as smart agriculture will be more effective in boosting yields.
Another recommendation from Access to Water is to integrate water, sanitation and hygiene in policies for food and nutrition, and also support irrigation mechanisms so that all the population is able to access clean water, improved water and sanitation across all the counties.
Presentation of today's research paper findings have been termed as a game changer at a time when Kenya is keenly focusing on food security. Stakeholders also opine that now focus should be put on matters nutrition. I'm Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Now, the government is in the process of engaging investors from the US to invest in the production of smartphones in Kenya and accelerate the digital inclusion agenda for micro, small and medium enterprises. Information Communication Technology and Digital Economy Principal Secretary, that is Engineer John Tanui, says Kenya currently has locally produced 2.6 million smartphones over the last 2 years against a local demand of 15 million smartphones a year.
Kenya is eyeing investors from the United States to invest in the large-scale production of smartphones. It is approximated that the country at the moment has 66 million smartphones, with the demand continuing to grow. To accelerate the digital inclusion agenda for MSMEs, Kenya requires 15 million smartphones a year.
To further promote local assembly of smartphones and other electronic and electrical devices, the government is developing a regulatory framework, which we are calling the tax procedure and assembled electronic components regulations, which are at an advanced stage of making to support and boost manufacturing and assembly of these products.
Engineer Tanui, who was speaking during the Smartphone for Africa Summit in Nairobi, says the government is pushing for the enhancement of locally sourced products to catalyze the large-scale manufacturing of smartphones.
We were able to get Kenya designated as a technology partner to the US, and also to be able to enable our private sector and the country to access the CHIPS Act of the US. We just need to make that a reality and operationalize. And as a country, we were the first in the continent to achieve that level. And it lays the foundation. We've seen STL in Tetan Kimati, Savannah Semiconductors, we've seen the electronics, M-Copper.
Speakers during the ongoing summit emphasized on the need to leverage the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to maximize the potential in boosting regional trade as it pushes for reduction of imports from other nations outside the African continent. Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
Kenyan universities are being urged to introduce courses in underwater archaeology to increase the number of specialists capable of exploring the country's vast underwater cultural heritage. Head of Coastal Archaeology at the National Museums of Kenya, that is Dr. Caesar Bitter, says despite the Indian Ocean offering significant foreign exchange opportunities, the field lacks the requisite personnel to undertake the initiative. Dr. Caesar urged the government to support the venture by ensuring institutions of higher learning introduce underwater archaeology into their academic programs. He noted that the courses could be incorporated into existing fields such as history, geography, anthropology, marine science, and land archaeology.
Kwa hivyo katika ile discipline ya archaeology inayofundishwa chuo kikuu cha Kenyatta, inafundishwa Moi University, inafundishwa mpaka Nairobi University, wanaweza wakaweka underwater archaeology katika hiyo archaeology ambayo inafundishwa. Ukawa unaweza kuhitimu katika archaeology na ukaspecialize katika underwater archaeology.
Muhimu wa uvumbuzi wa meli ya chini ya maji ni kuwa kama makavazi ya kitaifa National Museums of Kenya tumepata product mpya ambayo kando na watu kuja kuangalia museums ambazo tuko nazo kwenye land, wana nafasi haswa wale wenye utaalamu wa kwenda chini ya maji kuzamia na kuangalia ile turathi iliyohifadhika chini ya maji ambayo serikali inatambua na kuhifadhi pia.
And car maker Ford has announced it will cut 800 jobs in the UK over the next 3 years. The move is part of a major restructuring program which will see 4,000 posts closed across Europe as a whole. These and more in our international business news roundup.
The company said it had to act because of difficult trading conditions, including intense competition and weak demand for electric vehicles. However, the cuts will not affect its manufacturing sites in Dagenham and Hollywood or its logistics based in Southampton. Ford said it hoped to make the majority of job cuts through voluntary redundancy. This is the second round of cuts to hit Ford's operation in Britain in less than 2 years. Meanwhile, wheat growers in several exporting countries are reluctant to sell their crops with prices near 4-year lows, leaving flour makers with dwindling supplies and vulnerable to any potential upswing in prices. The limited supply held by flour makers reduces their buffer against production shortfalls that would trigger a rally in world prices, with global reserves already projected to reach a 9-year low and fuel food inflation. Finally, Google must sell its Chrome browser, share data and search results with rivals, and take other measures, including possibly selling Android to end its monopoly on online search. The measures presented by the Department of Justice are part of a landmark case in Washington which has the potential to reshape how users find information. They would be in a place to up to a decade and forced via a court-appointed committee to remedy what the judge overseeing the case deemed as an illegal monopoly in search and related advertising in the U.S., where Google processes 90% of searches. Winslow Spamba for Prime Edition.
Ungependa kuwa mshindi na Lucky Box? Ni rahisi sana.
Bonyeza *463# uwe
uwe mshindi. Kwa mshindi, bonyeza *463#. Uwe mshindi. Kuchagua box ni kuchagua chapa.
Kumbuka, kila unapocheza Lucky Box unasaidia watoto kusoma.
We may never get Alice back. Do you know that?
What? Magini aje. Cheki tupatane hapo kwa gates. Sai. Sawa.
Do you think I should bring some people here to watch over you and the house?
Blackie can still find me hata nikiwa na mapolisi 50 hapo.
Sometimes I just wish she was my daughter. I'm telling you, you'll be dead by now. The guy wants money. I have the money. Give me the location.
He also wants me there.
Why?
Hata mimi sijui.
Do not take a gun to that meeting. Be careful, we'll take her out there.
What do you mean? Why?
I don't trust him and he's carrying a gun right inside.
A very good evening. Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. My name is Karen Kibet. Let's take a look at the day's sports. Now, Vincent Onyala and Tony Omondi have been omitted from the National Rugby Sevens team that will take part in the opening legs of the 2024-2025 HSBC World Rugby Series, but are expected to be available in the remaining legs after sorting their contractual issues. Samuel Asati and George Ooro will captain the team as they jet out of the country on Monday for the Dubai Sevens, scheduled to be held from the 30th of November to 1st of December this year.
Samuel Asati and George Oro co-captained the Shujaa team that emerged victorious in the Safari Sevens, where they retained the title after they made their debut in the Paris Olympic Games this year. KCB's Asati will be making his debut in the series, among others, which head coach Kevin Wambua said will give them more exposure as they look forward to maintain their core status. Brian Odengo has also been named in the travelling squad and is set to make his debut for Shujaa in the opening leg alongside Olympians Patrick Odongo, Miguel Amasita, William Mwanji and Brian Mutua, who will also be making their first appearance in the series. Kevin Wekesa, Dennis Ambukuse, Floyd Ombwire, Benson Salem and George Oro are the experienced players, and they will be joined by Festus Shiasi, Christian Ojoang. Kenya will be making a return to the HSBC World Rugby Series after a season's absence following the relegations. The team will head to Cape Town for the second leg after the Dubai Series.
The national women's soccer team Harambee Starlets are set to play 2 international friendlies against Morocco on the 29th of November and 3rd of December this year at the Mohammed VI Football Complex. The senior team looks forward to emulate the juniors who have been on a roll this year to earn recognition across the world. The Kenya Under-17 women's team, the Junior Starlets, star striker Valerie Nekesa and head coach Mildred Cheche, historic achievements have earned them nominations in the 2024 CAF Awards, scheduled on the 16th of December this year in Morocco.
Mildred Cheche qualified the Junior Starlets to the first ever FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup, where they at least won one match against Mexico, whom they beat 2-1 in the group matches. Cheche has been nominated in the Coach of the Year category alongside Lamia Boumedi of TP Mazembe, Hamid Ramadan of FC Masar, Bayang Ingles de la Medina and Dinasonke Buli of University of Western Cape, who guided the team to a historic CAF Women's Champions League qualification. The Junior Starlets have been nominated for the National Team of the Year award alongside Morocco, Nigeria and Cameroon, under-20 teams as well as South Africa, Malawi and Zambia. Valerie Nekesa of Madeira Girls, who was on target during the Junior Starlets qualifiers, as well as the historic World Cup win, is among the top nominees of the Young Player of the Year category, with Nigeria's Chiamaka Okuchukwu and Florges Sebastian, Cameroon's Kadhibia and Naomi Eto'o, and Morocco's Doa El Madani and Lina Mokhtar. The winners among the 10 nominees in each category will be determined through votes from a panel who include the CAF Technical Committee, media professionals, head coaches and captain of member association and CAF interclubs.
Moving on, Amanda Lina of Kenya clinched 6 silver medals on the first day of the 13th edition of the Africa Youth and Junior Weightlifting Championship at the Ruaraka grounds here in Nairobi. Amanda looked set for the first challenge from the onset to earn 41 points in the snatch category, followed by 46 in the clean and jerk to finish second on 87 behind Tunisia's Yasmin, who emerged victorious. Yasmin registered 57 points in the snatch and 69 in the clean and jerk category. More than 40 players from 11 countries across the African continent are taking part in the championship in their quest to qualify for the forthcoming Youth Olympic Games set for next year in Senegal.
Aim was to improve, not to win. Because if you improve, that means you have won inside your heart. But for me, I improved and I managed to become positioned.
Most of the countries, especially in East Africa and Southern Africa, they don't have proper youth programs, so they were unable to bring the youths.
The Kenya Volleyball Federation officials hope for favorable weather tomorrow as the second leg of the National Women's League spikes off at the Nyayo National Stadium after the heavy rains in Nairobi played havoc on the Division 2 League matches last weekend. Kenya Pipeline, who are still smarting from their Nyeri outing where they lifted the Governor Mwalimu Kahiga Cup, will be up against defending champions KCB in what is bound to be a thriller, having won 2 matches so far in the National Women's League. Kenya Prisons, who have won only 1 match since the league spiked off, will face Post Bank in an afternoon match after DCI and Vihiga County Ladies' early morning match. DCI have won 2 matches since they began their campaign this year in Nyeri and look forward to maintaining that form, while Vihiga are yet to register a win. The other matches tomorrow will see Kenya Army against Lipa Likes, while Young Spikers of Nyandarua, who lost all their opening matches, will face Maranatha, who faces the same predicament. And that's your day's sports. My name is Karen Kibet. I'll see you tomorrow on Easy Friday with more sports news and, of course, all news in general. My name is Karen Kibet. Good night. I hand you back to my colleague, Betty Kiptum.
Thank you very much, Karen Kibet, there for bringing us up to speed on Matter Sports. And that is where we close Prime Edition this evening, the day of the State of the Nation address. From myself, Betty Kiptum, Brian Muraro, my colleague on the sign language interpretation, and the entire team that made this possible, we wish you a lovely night. Bye-bye.
Ni sahi ishafika na ni kubwa kubwa. Kwani hii Kristi ni bomba na Blue Santa kupitia star 570 hash option 1. Rudia. Star 570 hash option 1. Iko PlayStation 5 na 55 inch TV na iko 500,000 Kenyan shillings. Na mbuzi moja? Na mbuzi. 1 million Kenyan